French Revolution, American Revolution, libertarianism, and piracy. What do any of these things have in common, if anything? All that and more in today's episode. I'm your host, Joel Whitmire. This is the Freeman's Podcast with the Nehemiah Initiative. All right, what's up, Gabe? How are you?
Hey, man. I'm doing great.
Dude, it's so good to have you back. It has been, it's been a while since you and I have sat down to record. What was the last one we did? We did Worldview, maybe? That was two Christmases ago.
Oh, my Lord.
It has been that long.
Goodness. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, I'm sorry it's been that long.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah, well, it's not just my fault. Thanks. Good grief.
What?
Yeah, new studio, new equipment.
Yeah, this is pretty swanky,
This is pretty cool. I'm super blessed. App Studio is just a big shout out to them. They're the ones who are providing the space and the equipment. Couldn't be more grateful. Thank you, James.
Real.
Yeah. So today, like we talked about in the intro, French Revolution, American Revolution. That's something you and I have wanted to talk about for a long time.
A very long time.
We'll probably keep talking about it because there's no way we're going to get through all that today.
No.
And I just realized I'm going to be doing a lot of leaning forward as I look at my notes and move things around. So that's going to be fun. But anyways, French Revolution, American Revolution, libertarianism, piracy. We're going to talk about all that stuff today.
Yep.
I'm going to look at what it might have in common. Maybe there's some threads there, and where they don't, because there's definitely areas where they don't. So yeah, I will let you actually kick us off in getting into this, just because you put in a lot of notes for this.
Yes.
And some studying, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's also one of my favorite things to study, the French Revolution.
Okay. Mine's the American Revolution.
Yes.
And anything colonial.
Yes, which I'm famous for my deep disdain for the French. And
to any of our French listeners, well,
you deserve it.
Wow. Okay.
But
I love you.
Yes.
Anyways, go ahead.
In the name of Jesus.
Yes.
Repent and believe the gospel.
Whoa.
But that being said, the French have always occupied, especially like around the 18th century, have always occupied this weird niche in my brain where I think it's so fascinating. Psychologically, historically, but philosophically, in all the ways that it's interesting, but also just because the French Revolution is such a compelling and fascinating narrative.
Yeah.
It's such a deeply intense story.
It's one of the great tragedies of history. Yeah, absolutely.
It is. And that deep sense of tragedy is so pervasive through just the big meta-narrative of the whole thing, but then even down in the minutia, even when you get down to the really small levels of the individuals, the stories of the men and women that died.
Right.
Just incredibly tragic tales.
Yeah.
That don't have happy endings.
No, a lot of innocents perished in what ended up becoming the Reign of Terror. Right,
but the French Revolution would in a lot of ways it would be a very nihilistic story if it weren't for its counterpart.
Yeah.
Because both the American and the French Revolution exist within a very, very important era of history that built the world we currently live in.
Correct.
And so understanding the two, both in comparison and contrast, can teach us a lot about the world we live in today, but also how we should influence our worldview.
No, right.
In a lot of ways.
I think for me, I've always viewed both of them as two like almost perfect case studies on right and wrong ways to apply worldview.
Correct. In the sense that one of them is an attempt to destroy and then reinvent society, and the other tries to preserve it, and restore it, and make and turn society into reform society to their vision of how man should orient himself, both in the communal level and the big picture, but then also in the local, right? The day-to-day, person-to-person interaction.
Right.
And one of those tried to reinvent it. The other one tried to preserve it.
Right.
And this is evident in a lot of things. But as a really, I think, a good way of zeroing in, focusing down on the person-to-person scale. What does this contrast between the American and the French look like? A lot of that, I think, can be seen really starkly in the American South.
Okay.
Right, like the world that
American
world we live in.
Okay, so American South in the days of the founding, or just American South in general?
I think I could make an argument for in general. I think I could.
Well, I guess that would make sense because legacy is a thing, and
yes.
So, correct. But this is, for reasons for what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Where it started, where it got its foundations.
Sure. Yeah. So,
which I have something really cool once you get into this to talk about, like the founding of Georgia.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. James Oglethorpe. What a cool name.
Yeah. He's got a bunch of stuff named after him.
Dude, he is. I'll tell you about it. I think you're going to love this guy. Go ahead.
All right. So, I kind of have to set the stage for what the American South is to really kind of understand. Okay, we're talking about libertarianism, the French Revolution, American Revolution, piracy. What role does the American South play in all of this? Right? Like, where does cornbread, biscuits, and gravy? How does that fit into this story? And
collard greens,
collards, fried
country
chicken,
fried steak, dude.
This is.
I ain't eating dinner yet. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
So
I love the South.
Yes, amen.
Oh, peach cobbler.
Stop, man.
Barbecue, man.
The Anglo-Saxons. God, we're all over the place. But to understand, like, the spirit that makes the American South the South, like the reason why there's a difference between the North, the Yankee country, and then
we just
all of the epithets.
All of them. Yep.
Let's go. I'm throwing shots. But then the American South, like the two are not the same.
They're not.
They're very different. And if you live in the South, you live in the North, you know that.
Right.
And the difference there goes all the way back to England.
Right.
Right. But specifically, like the late Middle Age England.
Okay.
It's like 1600s. And so one of the things that was happening in England at the time was you had the Norman conquest. So the Normans have invaded. The foreigners from France have come and they've conquered England. There's a Norman king on the throne.
Right. Back in 1066.
Yes.
So we just jump a couple centuries real quick. I just want to clarify that. But go ahead.
Thank you.
Yep.
And there's this moment where there's a lot of tension because you have the Anglo-Saxon everyday man and Anglo-Saxon lords who have just been conquered by a foreigner, by a Norman who now sits on the throne. And the philosophy, the way of life between those two regions, between the Normans and the Saxons, were very different.
Oh yeah.
And so the tension, the tension of the layman, the local man, needs to be represented in the court of the king. That has its source in this tension between the Anglo-Saxons and their now Norman king.
Right.
And so at the time, there was a very different philosophy into how the defense of the nation was going to function. And so at the time, you had a lot of these lords who were lords over regions.
Counties, districts.
They've had many different names.
Right.
So let's say you're the Earl of Sussex, right? Under the king, you are going to raise for yourself, for Sussex, a fighting force.
Correct.
That represents Sussex.
Right.
Composed of Sussex men.
Right.
Who are Anglo-Saxons. And because they're from Sussex, they fight for Sussex.
Right.
And also for their lord. And if the king calls, then they will go serve the king. But because they don't represent the king.
Correct.
They represent Sussex. They also function as a threat to the king.
Okay.
So that should the king get out of line every lord has his own standing army fighting force as well. Okay. And so it serves both as a weapon for the crown, but also as a weapon against it, should the king get out of hand.
A big check on the
right.
king. Yeah.
And so the question then, does that ever happen?
Right.
And it's yes. And this is where, thank you for that correction on time, this is where we get to the 1600s.
Now, before you do that real quick, I just want to put a little note here. So that, you just described, to a degree, the feudal system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Feudal is where we actually get our modern word federal.
Federal, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I know you and I have gone back and forth on federalism, but as I think you're going to point out here, that, as I believe federalism, much better variation of that, is rooted in biblical principles.
Sure.
Of, a breakdown in, not a breakdown, but a, I don't even want to say hierarchy. It's a distribution. No, a distribution, I think, is a better word. A distribution of authority.
Yep.
To where not one person or even one group of people get to have all the authority, but it breaks down so that way there's extra protection, like you said, that the common man can be represented at the different levels.
Sure.
And so his rights aren't trampled by those who have, the standing armies that can just come and wipe out your village. Right. So, anyways, go ahead, though. We're back to the 1600s with Charles the First, I think you were about to get
600 years have passed since the Norman invasion.
Correct.
And so, at this point, the whole Norman versus Anglo-Saxon
has blended.
Has kind of blended. They're now English, right? There are no more Normans. There's an English king on the throne.
Right.
The people are also English. They think of themselves as Englishmen. But that tension of local versus central is still very much a problem. Because then, in that 600 years, John came and went. The Magna Carta was signed.
Right. 1200s.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So the Magna Carta established the idea that the king is not above the law.
Correct.
So it kind of killed this idea of absolutism. But then the Tudors come on the scene. Yep. And so you have the War of the Roses. The Tudors come to power, and so this Tudor absolutism, which was the Tudors they were always butting heads with Parliament. They were always butting heads with the the Magna Carta, and so Charles I comes to the throne, and just like his father, he despises Parliament. He hates Parliament because he likes to live a lavish lifestyle.
Yeah,
and so
it keeps raining on his parade.
Yeah, literally. They keep preventing him from having the wealth that he desires to live lavishly.
Correct.
Right? So they keep blocking all of his tax reforms. He's trying to pass increased taxes, he can get more money, all this stuff. Well, he eventually suspends Parliament.
Correct.
So the equivalent to this today would be if the president just said, hey, Congress, you can't meet anymore.
Yep.
Is basically what he did.
And I can now make laws for myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so it would eventually trigger a civil war.
Right.
But in the meantime, the High Court of England is called. And they bring Charles I before the court with charges of treason.
Correct.
Treason, high treason, against the people of England. Mm-hmm. And the High Court Justice, his name was John Bradshaw, and he has this quote that I love. Rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. And
which ended up becoming one of the main slogans and mottos of the American Revolution.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And so the seeds of the American Revolution are found even here in England.
Yes.
And it all goes back to the Anglo-Saxon idea of community.
Yes.
Of family. Of thinking for your neighbor. Living for your neighbor. But not just your neighbor, but also those who follow after you. Right? And so this idea of struggling between the local authority, which was kind of the Anglo-Saxon idea of you have the cavaliers of the countryside, right? The cavaliers were like they were one of these fighting forces raised by local lords.
Right, the country gentlemen.
Exactly. And so if you're paying it, like if that idea of country gentleman, that's very, very,
very apt that I would say that.
Yes, it is. Right. Okay. But that's exactly what it is. And so a lot of these cavaliers, these English sheriffs, who kind of have their philosophy built on local authority.
Yep.
Like, central power is good, but we're going to check you.
Yeah. Correct.
And so there's a lot of tension there where it's like it's respect, it's decorum, it's honor, but it's also, if you step out of line, there's a boot heel you're going to have to talk to, right?
Yes.
And so
I just want to say something real quick, because I want to, us Americans get a bad rap for being the cowboy.
Yeah.
We got it from the
Right.
English.
Yeah. They did it first.
Right. They did it first. So,
And really
to
good.
our
We just
English
perfected
listeners, like, give us a break, because you guys did it first. We just did it better, and we keep doing it better.
Sure. As seen.
But I want to, before you go on to that, I just want to give a quick note about sheriffs in the United States today. A lot of people don't know. I know it is this way in Georgia, and I know it is in a lot of other places. And I'll give an example here in a second. But a lot of people don't know this, but the sheriff is one of the most powerful individuals in the country, in your state specifically, because he answers to no one but the people who elected him. Like, even the governor can't do anything against him.
Yes.
And so that is a massive check on power. And we saw that back in, it was in the 20 teens, I forget which year it was. But Virginia, their House of Burgesses, their state legislature, it flipped Democrat. And they tried to pass some gun laws. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was this huge blow up where tons of sheriffs in Virginia just came out and said, I'm not enforcing it.
Yeah.
You can't make me enforce it, and I'll deputize my whole county, or I'll, that way they all have, it's like, it's this massive check even to this day. Your sheriff, which is important, why we've got to know who they are, and we get honest and God-fearing people to be sheriffs.
Yeah, and I'm thankful that here, I mean, we have our sheriff is very intimately involved with the community.
He is, yes.
Yeah, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just wanted to point that out, because it's like we're talking about these ideas from the 1600s that are going to spill into the American Revolution and the pirates, which, anyways, we're talking about it, but it is applicable to us today.
Yes.
Like these things are still happening, it's still going on. But go ahead.
Right, and so you've got that struggle.
Yeah.
The sheriff's being a great example of that, between this group that desires authority to be locally with the people, and the sheriffs are kind of an embodiment of that.
Right.
But then on the other side of this, you kind of have the Norman idea, which is centralized authority. And so the way the Norman fighting force worked was very different. There was no local fighting force that answered to a lord. The army answered to the king.
Right.
And that was it. And so that same idea of the fighting force, the armed forces, are they submissive? Do they serve the highest authority in the land, or do they serve the people? And so this kind of I know that's not a very clean way of saying it, but
no, I think it's a good way, because as you said it, I didn't want to cut you off, but do the forces, the military forces, like those feudal forces, or even the cavaliers and their armed levies or militias, because that was the word they would have used in especially English Civil War, do they fight for the people, or do they fight for the crown? They fight for the people, and then they fight for the crown in so much as it's fighting for the people.
Exactly. Right.
As the king's responsibility, his God-given responsibility, especially from Romans 13, is to be God's servant for the good of the people. That's why he exists.
Right. And you even see that reflected in even modern American military today.
Yeah.
Is the vast majority of the fighting force comes from the South.
They do.
Because the
South
American
Midwest,
Southerners have always been dually minded in both their levity and their brevity, but also they're very warlike. Yeah. Right? And that there's a warrior component to what it means to be Southern.
Yeah.
Right? And it's reflected in a lot of families, because there are very few families in the American South who don't either have veterans or current active duty service members.
Right.
Right? In your family, in your immediate family. There are very few who
right.
don't have that. And it's a badge of honor that Southern families wear.
Yeah, it is.
You know, and that but the source of that comes in the people that we come from, even from the island of Britain.
Yeah.
And that the people that populated the American South, they were the Cavaliers, they were the sheriffs of England, right? And a lot of them were the Scots, notorious for rebellion against the king, right?
Indeed.
So
back to your statement, rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. I want you to continue on with what you're saying, but I wanted to point out why I would agree with that statement in almost every circumstance. There might be some circumstances like when hotheads use that to justify evil actions. It's like, okay, of course I don't agree with that, but the reason I would agree with rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God is because a tyrant is somebody who was a lawful authority, who has stepped outside of his God-ordained jurisdiction. We're told to obey him when he's lawful and he abides in his God-ordained jurisdiction. The moment he steps outside of that, we're not told to obey this over here. We're told to obey the correct jurisdiction that God establishes that is under the rule of law.
Right.
A tyrant is somebody who's operating outside of his jurisdiction.
Right.
So rebellion to the tyrant is telling the tyrant, I can't obey you.
Right.
Because your actions are now antithetical to what God gave you the position for in the first place. Therefore, I'm obeying God by not obeying you.
And that's why I went on the background of where that quote came from, right? Because rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. That doesn't mean anybody you deem as a tyrant.
Right.
Just because in your eyes you think they're tyrannical.
Oh, they did something I don't like.
Right. No. What does the law say? The king is not above the law. And so the man who spoke that, John Bradshaw, was judging Charles for treason because he dismissed Parliament.
Yeah, he
that
stepped outside the law.
That is a direct violation of the Magna Carta because he's removing Parliament. It's the president getting rid of Congress. That can't happen. So that's tyrannical.
Correct.
So if you don't like what a king's doing or what a president is doing, that's not tyranny, that's disagreement.
Right. Those are opinions.
Exactly. And so rebellion to tyrants as obedience to God means that when a king has violated his covenant with the people,
correct,
that is tyranny.
Which we should do a whole episode on the whole idea of covenantalism. But there's not enough time for that right now. But yes.
And so this conflict of local versus federal power, it follows the Pilgrims, and it embeds itself in the philosophy of the founders in the American Revolution. And so the revolution has been fought, right?
Okay.
And you want to pause here?
Yeah, I do want to pause here because you just jumped over a huge section of history. Because yes, it followed the Pilgrims, but also followed the Puritans, and it followed the Anglicans that went to Jamestown, and there was mess there, but still, and it followed James Oglethorpe. And I wanted to talk to you about him because you were about to just jump over my opportunity to do that.
All right, get into it.
So James Oglethorpe, he was a born-again Christian in England. He had authority. I don't remember what his title was, but he had a heart for those who were suffering, specifically in the prisons, and they were just terrible situations at the time. And so he petitioned the king to reform the prison system, but also to create a colony in Georgia, what is now Georgia, naming after Georgia, to basically empty a lot of the prisons and give people a brand new start.
Yeah.
So him and the board that put together the colony, that basically were he was the first governor, not that he would have the title of governor, but they basically ran the colony until they could set up their government there.
Sure.
Their motto was not for self, but for others. And so they come here, they set it up, and originally Georgia, slavery was outlawed. A lot of people don't know that. It ended up getting overturned, which made Oglethorpe so angry that he left the colony. Yeah. But he set it up where there was no slavery. They would buy the land from the natives. They would be on friendly terms. He wanted to make sure that the gospel was being preached everywhere to the natives and all the people, and that these people who were coming from these prisons were getting a fresh start. So Georgia has one of the coolest, richest like deepest foundational foundings out of most of our colonies.
And I think that's really important. The origins of a place are very important.
Yes.
Like the spiritual environment in which a place is built, it will in some ways define the trajectory of that region.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that is, even going all the way back to Oglethorpe, is one of the reasons I'm so hopeful for our state.
Yeah.
Right? Is
Yeah.
because of what it started as.
Yes.
And
but yes.
and so it was, so like after Oglethorpe, right? Oglethorpe comes along, the colonies pop up, we have the American Revolution, and we get to the Constitutional Convention.
Correct.
And so the founders are, and the, like, they're going head to head over, okay, how are we going to construct our government?
Correct.
And again, this conflict, all the way back going all the way back to William the Conqueror, the Norman invasion of England, is poking its head up here.
Yep.
700 years later.
Yeah.
It's still an issue. And so it manifests itself in the Constitutional Convention as these two different plans for how colonies, now states, now their own individual sovereign countries,
Correct.
how these states are going to represent themselves within a federal governing body.
Yes. And
Right.
just a note for that. I saw this quote by Charlie Kirk even today. Miss that guy.
Yeah.
But the states created the federal government. The federal government did not create the states.
Yeah.
And that is vital to keep
It is.
that order
Yes.
in its proper place.
Yes.
We, the
Correct.
states, and the people of the states, created the federal government. The federal government did not create
Correct.
the United States.
Correct. Georgia existed before Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Right. And so you have these two plans. You have the New Jersey plan, and then you have the Virginia plan. So named because of the states that kind of were championing
Right.
those ideas.
Representatives from those states were the ones who
Correct.
proposed the plan. I
Correct.
don't remember their names. I think
I can't remember.
I think James Madison,
was involved
I
with
think
Virginia.
he's the one that put forward the Virginia plan. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
he was.
I do not remember who New Jersey was.
I can't remember.
And I think that was probably because we didn't take the New Jersey plan. So we wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah. But and they're so named, and because of the states that represent them, and then when you just compare the states, you kind of see, okay, who wants what here. New Jersey, obviously much smaller than Virginia
Yes.
in every way.
Right.
And
well, Virginia was one of the biggest, if not the biggest,
it was
state
the
at the
biggest.
time.
Yeah. Both by population and just land mass and
Yeah.
agricultural production, all of it.
Washington.
And so,
George Washington was from Virginia,
Right.
so the big names are from
yeah,
Virginia.
yeah. And so much so that, like, I think it was the first six of the first seven presidents were from Virginia. So it's kind of called the Virginia dynasty.
I'd have to think about that.
There's
'cause
some
I know John Adams wasn't, and
there's some
Quincy Adams
disproportionate
wasn't.
amount of the first handful of presidents that were from Virginia.
There are a lot of people from Virginia that
Right.
would go, "Wow, I didn't know
Yeah.
they were from Virginia."
Yeah, so Virginia's
Yeah.
a big deal
Yeah.
in the early United States. And so Virginia was championing this idea of that, whoa, within this we're all our separate countries. We're having a governing body to kind of unite us in times of crisis. How much power are we going to give this entity? Right? Virginia wanted very little.
Yeah.
Understandably so, they were the biggest. They had the most weight to throw around.
Right.
New Jersey, on the other hand, not much.
No.
New Jersey, Maryland, Massachusetts, influential, but just
Right.
not as big.
Right.
But they were like, what happens if you get out of line?
Exactly.
We want something to help us out. And so this is where you have the New Jersey plan. So the New Jersey plan was very much in favor of strong, centralized government.
Correct.
Virginia plan, very much not. It very much valued the local. And so again, you see this division, north, south. This manifesting on the same planes here.
Yeah.
Right? And so this conflict and this tension.
I want to say though, sorry, going back to federalism, because we've all remember from high school, I'm sure the term the Great Compromise
Right.
that took place in the Constitutional Convention.
It settled this issue.
It did settle this issue. And what it was is that we get two houses.
Yeah.
The House of Representatives would represent the people of the several states. And it would be by district, by population, how many of that.
Right.
So that gave, a lot of leeway to the big states.
Yeah.
But the Senate was going to be, each state was going to have 2 senators.
Right.
So everybody's going to be equal in the Senate, and the purpose behind that was that the senators would be elected by the state legislatures. So they are the voice of the entity, the institution of the state in the federal government, to give the state institution a voice in the federal government that is a check on, big population areas.
Right.
The undoing of that by the progressives in the early 1900s with the 17th Amendment has got to be undone. We have to repeal the 17th Amendment to make the senators be elected by the state legislatures again, so that our states will have an equal representation. The entity of the state will have an equal representation in the federal government.
Yes.
And if you think about it, that automatically squashes a lot of the smallest areas of our country, but big populations, from having so much overbearing control over the rest of the country.
Yeah, and that's
federalism.
Correct.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. See, I hope.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're having this discussion, because this is what I've been trying to say to you. It is a good thing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm jaded.
Sure.
And I'm speaking from that perspective.
Okay, so you're about to bring up a term in a minute.
Yes.
I don't like.
That I love.
That you do love, but I don't like.
It.
And that's okay that you don't like the term federalism, but you love the concept.
Oh, for sure.
You love everything about it.
Sure. Yes.
So I don't know what else to call it. We could call it rainbows and butterflies if you want. But
I like words that tickle my fancy.
Indeed you do. But let's continue on. So the conflict and tension carried on for centuries.
So this is where you get the war hawks.
Yes.
Right. So during right before the War of 1812, you kind of had a couple men in Congress who were really gung ho for war against Britain, and so this would have been dudes like help me here, John C. Calhoun.
I'm sorry. I don't know as much about the War of 1812 as
there were three, and I can't remember.
I know Daniel Webster and Calhoun.
Daniel Webster and John C. Calhoun. They kind of butted heads. Between the two, I like Daniel Webster a little more.
Yeah, Calhoun,
which sucks because he's a Yank. John C. Calhoun was a good old Southern boy.
A massive racist.
Very racist individual. Yes. What is the problem? It's a problem.
It's a massive problem.
It's a really big problem.
Yeah.
We're about to get to that.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the third one. But you constantly have this idea, even post 1776, leading all the way to 1812. Mm-hmm. The War of 1812 was really critical because it was the first time America went to war as the new entity that it was.
Right. It was the conclusion. Honestly, in my opinion, the War of 1812 is the conclusion to the American War for Independence.
Yes,
it's
it is.
Okay, we are actually independent and free. Leave us alone.
Because they kicked the British out.
Yes.
But it was the first time that this new union was going to be tested.
A new country.
Yes. And so this question of, where's the military focus? Where's the central power going to be? It was tested in a war. Right. And America survived it, in large part because of the war hawks, because of these 3 congressmen who really were holding the nation together. Mm-hmm. They were, all of them, championing for unity, while there's still this conflict, even in Congress, on the floors of Congress, of who has the most power. Virginia plan, New Jersey plan.
Right.
Is it the states or is it the federal government?
Right.
That was happening before the War of 1812, during the War of 1812, and after.
Correct.
And so, for the remainder of these these men's lives, they're going to be trying to hold the Union together. Because from the jump, there was dissatisfaction.
Yep.
And the states were usually the ones who were dissatisfied.
Correct.
Because as the federal government, they're following their ideas of
we're
that.
Still dissatisfied.
Yes, we still right, exactly.
Right.
Because as the smaller states, the New Jerseys, the men of Washington D.C., they operate under the idea that the concentration of power under the federal government to dominate the Union. Mm-hmm. I'm using negative language there. They wouldn't say it that way.
Correct.
But And I want to be fair to them. They wouldn't see it that way because they see it as this is where government needs to be.
Right.
They keep consolidating power in the federal government. And so you have the states who are continually dissatisfied with the fact that the federal government keeps getting bigger, more powerful, more powerful, more powerful.
Correct.
And this whole time, the war hawks are holding the nation together. They have these beautiful speeches in Congress about, Daniel Webster especially, about how and why the preservation of the Union.
I gotta tell you a quick story about Daniel Webster. He was such a great spokesman. How would you say it? Like, he was so eloquent. He had freshman congressmen would come and ask him, like, how'd you get so good? Can you train me how to, talk like you? And his response was, read the Bible out loud.
Yeah.
And there's stories of, I do too. There's stories of congressmen who would go just sit outside his office because Daniel Webster be in there reading the Bible out loud, and they love it. And they said that their favorite book to hear him read was the Book of Job, because it was like listening to a 4-person discourse, and he would change his voice for each one of the people.
So cool.
And then the way he described it was
neat.
when towards the end of the book in Job 38 and 39, when God himself starts speaking to Job, they would say it was like as if the rafters of his door were shaking because of his booming voice.
So cool.
I'm just like, man,
that's so awesome.
That would have been amazing. I started reading my Bible more often out loud.
And that's a yank. How far they have fallen.
Hey, he's an American. I'm gonna claim that one.
Yeah.
As a fellow American, you don't have how far they've fallen. So, anyways,
so this conflict.
Yes.
We can't keep using that word, but it's always there, and it comes to and then when the Warhawks die, there's this kind of sense that like the levee that was holding back the floodwaters is broken. They're gone. We all knew we were destined. This conflict was going to come to blows.
Yep.
And now it is. There's no more kicking the can down the road. We no longer have the old guard, the men who were children during the Revolution, who watched all this, who watched Washington, watched Washington march through their backyards, right? Watched Nathaniel Greene march through their backyards. Like, that's who the Warhawks were. They saw the revolution with their own eyes. They're dead. They're gone. There's no one to hold this back. And so it comes to a war. This tension between local and central, it comes to a head over the issue of slavery. And so this is why, like, when people act like, or it's like I kind of challenge it is like the Civil War wasn't about slavery, but it was fought because of slavery in a sense. But even then, that doesn't do it justice, because the central issue is this, but the kind of the hinge. There's not a good analogy for this, but it's just the thing that set it off was the issue that set it off was slavery, but the seeds of the war, they go back centuries.
Yeah. I think the way I usually try to tell people is like the reason the shots were fired was whether or not a state could secede from the Union.
Correct.
Over that question. But why did states secede from the Union?
Slavery.
Slavery was a big part of that.
Correct.
I want to say this because I just want to be honest. I want to be clear. I don't care. People might just completely disagree with me, but slavery, as evil as it was among other issues because a lot of Southerners, especially in Virginia, were in favor of abolishing slavery.
Yeah, I mean, even you had like James Longstreet, who fought under Lee.
Yeah, after the war, he spent the rest of his life advocating for the free
abolition.
Well, not just abolition because slavery is over, but he was advocating for equal rights, equal standing of freed slaves.
Right, and he in one of his, I can't remember where this is. I need to find it, but in one of his journal entries, like during the war, he was talking about how he was like Jefferson Davis after secession. He should have freed the slaves first thing, like Virginia, and then his criticism of Virginia. Longstreet was like, Virginia we should have freed the slaves and then seceded.
Yes.
Because then the Union would not have had a reason They would not have had a reason to make them look morally superior in the history books.
Sure. And I think I just want to... The reason I just want to bring that up in that with Longstreet, and there are many others we could talk about, is just because it's a lot more... It's not as clear, cut, and dry as, we were always taught. The North trying to impose a union by military force, I'm like, is that really an issue worth going over to war on? Right. And then...
to put this in the context of like what we were talking about with Charles, remove the issue of slavery,
which
from your lens, right? Yes, but just take that out of it. Like, imagine Charles goes to war, where he raises his own army, and then goes to war against the sheriffs, against the cavaliers,
against the country,
against the army of Sussex and Wessex and Northumbria.
The parliamentarians is what they call themselves.
Right. Like, imagine Charles goes to war against Parliament.
Which is exactly what he did.
Right. It is what he did.
Exactly.
And then it ended the way it did.
He ended up with his head cut off.
Yeah. Because, yeah.
Yeah.
But it didn't work for the American South.
I think it was because, honestly, I think it was because even though a lot of Southerners were not fighting to preserve slavery, they wanted to abolish it. And I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying a lot of them. Yeah. I think the fact that was such a stain, it's like a sin. You just look throughout the Old Testament. It's like, God, why didn't you go out with our armies? You've sinned against me. Right. And so I think that the way that it was just like patted down, like, why would God honor that? Right? And so I just try to tell people, like, just simplistically, we'll move on because we've been talking about the English in the American Revolution a bit here, but we need to talk about the French a little bit. I don't even know how long we've been doing this so far, but hey, I'm enjoying it. The whole idea, I try to tell people, like, North was, in my humble opinion, was wrong to enforce a union on states by means of, war. They were right to work in the fighting for the freeing of the slaves. Yes. The South was right to stand up for the rights of states. Completely and utterly wrong for their stance on slavery. Yeah. And so there's no... You can say, well, that was the greater evil, and perhaps it was, and maybe that's why God allowed the South to lose.
Right. And this is why, like, morally, like, slavery is evil, very clearly.
Yes. Specifically, that type of slavery.
But if we're
chattel
talking...
slavery...
Yes.
Over...
And man-stealing.
Exactly.
That
God
is explicitly condemned.
I could be wrong. No, I'm not wrong. Wow. Before I even said I'm saying I'm not wrong. In the Old Testament, kidnapping and selling into slavery... Explicitly
condemned.
Well, it's not just condemned. It warranted the death penalty.
Yeah, people were put to death for that, yes.
Exactly.
And this is why when people say that, well, the Bible doesn't condemn slavery. Like, no.
Yes,
but no, because when you use the word slavery, you're talking about chattel slavery.
Yes.
Right, you're talking about...
Kidnapping, owning a human being as if they're your property.
That is man-stealing.
That is completely against everything God would stand.
And it warrants the death penalty in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
Right, and so,
but not to keep going
correct,
on this,
but philosophically,
yes,
the South was right when it comes to that idea of
local protection.
Yes, of the sovereignty of the states. The states have the right to secede. Why? Because they built it. If they want to leave, they can.
Which was the argument.
Right. So like talking about we just talked a lot about the Civil War.
Right.
Because the Civil War sits at a critical moment in American history. Because looking at the broad scope of American history, of how did we get where we are today, the American Revolution was successful. But the American Revolution was about two different ideas. And those ideas went to war. And federalism won. Central government won.
Well,
it did.
No, central government won. That's not federalism. They called it federalism. They did, but that is not federalism.
Central government won.
Yes.
And understanding that conflict goes way back.
Yes.
And that it is attempting to be preserved. That even the idea to have those differing ideas, the very freedom to have different opinions, is what was preserved in the American Revolution.
Yeah.
And so we discuss going all the way back to the Norman Conquest, to the American Civil War, to recognize that this conflict sits for 700 years. Even today, you can make it for 1,000 years. But the American Revolution sits in the middle of that. And the American Revolution is a continuation of this British conflict, which is differing ideas, and that there is liberty and freedom in being able to disagree about those things. And that was not the case for the French.
Yes.
There was nothing being preserved in the French Revolution. Not a single thing. It was a complete wipe of the slate.
Right.
Get everything that was old gone.
It was an attempt, and by everything, it was an attempt to rewrite reality.
Yeah, literally, in the sense that they
really
rewrote
was.
the calendar.
No, right.
And so history was, they attempted to alter history.
Yeah.
And so that's the difference. And so we set that up so that we can then get into, okay, how was the French Revolution different?
Yeah, how is the French Revolution different? And just real quick, I want to, and I'll talk about this in our next episode, because we're going to need to another one. The idea, America, and I'll get into it in a minute because I want to, or in the next episode, I want to talk about the difference in the views of liberty.
Yeah.
Like the fundamental thing that both revolutions fought to preserve God's gift of liberty. The French said it's not God's gift. It's just man.
Yeah.
And we get to define it how we want.
Yep.
And the American founders said, no, this is God's gift. It's worth preserving for ourselves and for our neighbors.
And for our children.
And for our children and future generations.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so the American Revolution, I want to get into this now. I'll get into this in the next episode. Just leave that as a teaser for our listeners that there's some cool things coming. So yeah, anyways, guys, thank you for listening. We're going to cut this one right now and pick back up and have our second episode on the French Revolution, piracy, and libertarianism, which I'm still like, how, honestly, just so you guys know, Gabe and I literally came up with those three things without talking to each other today.
Yeah.
And then we looked at each other's notes and was like, wow, I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, so anyways, episode 2 coming your way soon. Thank you for listening. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, send it to a friend if you found it helpful. Drop a comment if you have a thought, opinion, or completely disagree with us. We'd love to hear from you. But yeah, thanks for listening. Oh, hit that bell so you can get notifications when we drop new episodes. I am all over the place with this. But anyways, thanks for listening, guys. God bless y'all.